You ever wonder what it really takes to be a powerhouse in the global energy game? Well, today we're digging deep into Africa's uranium market. And trust me, it's a high-stakes world of strategy, geology, and some serious economics behind a mineral that could literally power our future. So let's get right into it.
So, what's the secret sauce here? I mean, you've got a continent that's incredibly rich in resources, but what really separates the true giants from just the contenders in this race for uranium dominance?
Okay, so the first thing you might think is, well, the country with the biggest pile of uranium wins, right? It's an easy assumption to make. But as we're about to see, the real story is so much more complex and, frankly, a lot more fascinating than just that. To really wrap our heads around this, we're going to focus on the two titans of African uranium. These guys are both at the very top of the food chain, but you know what? They got there using completely different playbooks. All right, let's put some hard numbers on the board. You can see it right away. Namibia and Niger are just in a league of their own. We're talking potential resources hitting 1 million tons for Namibia and 800,000 for Niger. Now, don't get me wrong, South Africa and Tanzania are significant players, for sure. But Namibia and Niger, they're the undisputed heavyweights in this arena. Yeah, this chart really drives home the mind-boggling scale we're talking about. The massive reserves in these two countries put them right at the heart of our story. But remember what I said a second ago? It's not just about how much you have. It's about how you get it out of the ground. And that is where things get really interesting.
And that leads us right to the core strategic dilemma in uranium mining. It's a classic showdown, really. The quality of your ore versus the sheer scale of your operation. Do you go for the rich stuff, or do you just go big?
Okay, let's break this down. Namibia is all about the scale game. They've got lower grade ore, so their whole strategy is just pure volume. I want you to picture massive open pit mines that are literally moving mountains of rock. Niger, on the other hand, is playing a different hand entirely. They've generally got higher grade ore, but the catch is it's buried deeper. So that calls for a more surgical approach. And they're even looking at new tech like ISR, that's in situ recovery, to get an edge. So when I say ore grade, what are we actually talking about? Well, think of it like this. Imagine you're panning for gold. A high ore grade is like finding a spot in the river that's just packed with gold flakes. A low grade, that means you have to sift through tons and tons and tons of sand just to find a few tiny specks. Now get a load of this number, 0.04%. That's Namibia's average ore grade. So what does that actually mean in the real world? It means for every 100,000 pounds of rock they dig up, they only get about 40 pounds of uranium. 40. That's precisely why their mines have to be some of the largest on the entire planet. It's a strategy of pure, unadulterated brute force. And you know, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the bottom line, cost. Namibia's massive scale actually helps keep their per-pound cost pretty low. For Niger, those deeper mines mean higher costs, at least for now. But here's the wild card, the potential game changer. That technology I mentioned, in situ recovery, or ISR. This method basically dissolves the uranium underground and pumps it right to the surface. If they perfect that, it could slash Niger's costs and give them a huge long-term advantage. But look, this isn't just a two-horse race. The uranium game gets way more complicated when you throw in other critical factors, like decades of industry experience, the challenge of aging infrastructure, or even being completely dependent on other mined commodities. So let's broaden our view a little bit. Just take a look at this timeline. You've got South Africa, an absolute industry veteran with over 60 years in the game. Then you have Niger and Namibia, who've been at it for around half a century. And then you've got relative newcomers like Tanzania. That experience gap, it's huge, and it plays a major role in everything. But all that experience can be a bit of a double-edged sword. In South Africa's case, being a veteran means they're also grappling with old, often inefficient infrastructure. This legacy technology makes their whole operation more energy-intensive, which, you guessed it, drives up the cost for every single pound of uranium they produce. And then you get a really fascinating case like Zambia. Over there, uranium is just a side hustle, a byproduct of their copper mining. The ore grade is incredibly low, and the costs are high. This creates this really unique dependency. Zambia's entire uranium industry lives or dies by the price of copper. If copper prices tank, that uranium just stays in the ground. Simple as that. So we've looked at grade, we've looked at scale, cost, and experience. It's a lot of moving parts. So let's try and put all these pieces together. What is the actual formula for success in this incredibly high-stakes game? Here it is. This is the key takeaway. There is a winning formula, but it's not just one thing.
It starts with what Mother Nature gives you, right? Your ore grade and geology. But that's just the foundation. You have to build on that with the right scale of operation, you need the right technology to keep your costs under control, and you need that hard-won experience to navigate all the challenges that are going to come your way. A true superpower has to master all four.
And that brings us to the really big picture. As the world pivots more and more towards nuclear for clean energy, the stakes in Africa's uranium game are higher than they have ever been. So when you think about that delicate balance of geology, scale, technology, and experience, who do you think is holding the winning hand for the future? Is it the brute force scale of Namibia, or is it the high-grade potential of Niger? Well, I guess the next decade is going to tell us.